So I'd like to recap where we have been, where we are, and where we're going, particularly on the issue of this mistake in pricing over the last 32 hours. Quick recap. 57 people are dead. Multiple companies are filing bankruptcy. There are thousands of damaged homes. Billions of dollars in accounts receivable of bills that need to be paid. 3 of the commissioners at the PUC who were in charge have resigned. I asked 2 to resign, 1 quit on their own. The CEO of ERCOT, who I asked to resign, was fired by the board. So those in charge are gone, although some still remain until their replacements are chosen. This week, the Senate acted as the governor asked us to act. On Tuesday, March 9th at 8:48 p.m., the governor said it's the legislature to act. And so, as you all know, we postponed every rule that we could on Monday so that we could pass a bill in record time, filed it at 9 a.m. or so, and it passed in the afternoon. And that bill was supported by 28 of 31 senators. The final vote was 27-3, but the one senator who was ill would have been a yes vote. 28 out of 31 senators voted for the PUC chair at ERCOT to correct that price of what we clearly believe the evidence has shown, although there was conflicting evidence, that should not have been charged to the ratepayers of Texas for the last 32 hours, when it was $9,000 per hour. So in testimony, we heard conflicting testimony. The PUC chair, current chair, who's now resigned at my request, and although the governor gave him his full support last week, the governor asked him to resign after a leaked tape, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I thank the governor for taking action on that this week. The PUC chair testified in the House that they made the call, but in the Senate, Bill Magnus of ERCOT said he made the call to keep the price at $9,000, and then back in the House it was changed again. There's been testimony all over the board. We don't know the true facts who made the decision at this point. We know it shouldn't have been made. The independent monitor came in and told ERCOT the price should be back to normal. Again, would have saved a gross number of about $16 billion, but net to the ratepayers probably between $4 and $5 billion. And then since then, and they didn't say it at the time, ERCOT has said, well, we had to keep the price at $9,000 to save lives. You've heard that. But at 8:11 on Thursday morning, after the storm had passed, they put out their own press release that said, we are out of taking residential homes off the grid. Load shed is gone. They didn't say anything about saving lives at the time. And really, since they said the power was back to everyone, there was no reason for them to do that. But that was their answer now. But at the time, they said the system was back. But they kept the price at $9,000, costing Texas ratepayers millions every minute that clicked by. So the Senate passed a bill and said correct it. The House took no action this week. They've adjourned. So it leaves it to the governor. The governor sent me a letter last week and said, I don't have the authority to intercede. And he agreed with the then PUC chairman, who he since asked for his resignation, that he agreed that the PUC commissioner did not have the power to correct the pricing. So I asked the Attorney General for an opinion. And the Attorney General issued an opinion this week that said, under plain language, in 39.151, the Public Utility Commission has complete authority to act. The governor also brought up, and the House brought up, maybe it would be a problem with our Constitution, Article 16 or 17, retroactively taking action on a contract. The Attorney General said a court would likely find that such corrective action by the PUC does not raise any constitutional issues. In terms of the governor's power to act, he has renewed the emergency order, and under an emergency declaration, the governor has extraordinary power. He is the commander-in-chief. He is the ruler of all of the agencies. He can make this corrective action if he so chooses. I've worked very well with the governor for 5 years. We're on the same page 95% of the time. I support what he's doing on the issues on the border and on all the issues we're working together on. But Governor, you asked the legislature to take action. One chamber did. They voted 27-3 to correct it. So I would like for you to consider that. Secondly, I would like to go over this tape and a couple of highlights, which we'll give you the highlights after. This is the leaked tape by the last commissioner to resign. This was last Tuesday, before he even testified before the Senate. And just a few highlights. He said, and remember who he was talking to, the energy investors of Bank of America. And by the way, the name of the agenda that day was Learning the Texas Two-Step. Sure sounds like the ratepayers were a victim of the Texas Two-Step. At one point, and again we have this and the timestamp for you, he said to them, we have an internal deadline at ERCOT of basically next week, which would be tomorrow. 30 days, so you know, and then he laughed, as if this was funny to him. He laughed, I apologize for the instability, but it won't last past next week. So that's the good news. What did he know that the Senate didn't know? How did he know the House wasn't going to act? How does he know the governor won't act tomorrow? What did he mean by that? He said, I'm advising on repricing. The best I can is to put the weight of the commission in favor of not doing it. So he's telling some of the winners, I would guess, that were on that call, I'm going to put the weight of my commission of not repricing. He said this also. In about 2 weeks, I went from being on a very hot seat to having one of the safest jobs in Texas. Well, he was wrong about that because the governor asked him to resign. He also had said something on the tape that I thought was very interesting. I don't think the governor really is interested in appointing new members. I think they probably enjoy having just one person up there because, you know, they can secure promises from me that I can't say that other commissioners would go along with. I don't think the governor believes that. I don't think the governor said that. But that kind of talk from a regulator giving favor to private industry, suggesting he has some type of control over the legislature and his job is the kind of talk that leads to criminal investigations. So, the governor, he is judicious. Attorney General, Supreme Court Justice, he's had a chance to look at the facts. The Senate has spoken. We have done a thorough investigation of the facts. It's clear it's a mistake. Will there be ramifications if we correct that 32 hours of pricing? Yes. But there are going to be ramifications no matter what happens. We have a lot of work to do on behalf of the ratepayers. So I'm asking the governor to consider it, Governor, to order under emergency orders that you have, the PUC chair, to tell ERCOT to correct that price on that day. If he does not, there is one other thing the governor can do. If ERCOT provides notice to the market participants, within 30 days that prices are under investigation, that preserves the ability of ERCOT to continue reviewing the prices. So I respect the governor's legal wisdom. He'll have to make the decision, but at a minimum, if the governor won't decide to correct the prices tomorrow, he can order ERCOT or tell the PUC chair, who's still there, to tell ERCOT to announce that prices are under investigation. The House said they wanted more time. That would give them more time. The Senate's pretty much made the conclusion based on the facts. But if time is needed, I don't have the power to tell ERCOT to do that. If I did, I would. But at a minimum, if the governor doesn't act to correct the price, then I would ask him to ask ERCOT to announce it's under investigation. There's a principle here. The principle is billions of dollars changed hands over 5 days. Many will argue it should not have gone to 9,000 on Monday. We're talking about the 32 hours. And if you look at the total bill, think of this. Monday was 24 hours, Tuesday was 24 hours, Wednesday was 24 hours. We're not even arguing that at this point. But here's another 32 hours of billions of dollars that was added on that should not have been on. And the Texas Senate has made it clear we're standing up for the ratepayers on this. We believe it needs to be corrected. So hopefully the governor will take the action. We believe he has the authority to do so. Look, again, I think the governor has done a really good job, in a very difficult time over this last year and a half, and we've worked well together. We just disagree on this issue. And as I said last week, someone said, well, Dan, why aren't you talking to the governor privately? Why are these, when you ask for resignations, when you ask for the correcting of the price, why have you put this out publicly? Because from day one, I have been concerned about this pricing. And as I said in my press conference last week, I think it's best not to have some meetings about this in private. It's best to get it all out in the public. I want the public to know where I stand on this and where the Senate stands on this. And that's where we are today, and the clock is ticking. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Any questions?
Have you gotten any sort of indication if Governor Abbott has changed his tune on whether or not he thinks there is corrective action should be taken? I know before Chairman D'Andrea resigned, he defended this decision. Have you gotten any indication that Abbott has changed his mind on that?
I have not gotten any indication. The governor, I know he was asked a question about it in Dallas yesterday. He said he's on the record. I think what he's on the record of is he asked the legislation to investigate it. That's what he's on the record of. We did. We voted. The House didn't. So we can't help if the House didn't vote. We did. So at least I hope the governor will take that in consideration. I also hope he'll look at that opinion from the Attorney General to say that he does have the power. I mean, he has unlimited power during an emergency. We know. And at a minimum, ERCOT can say that this is under investigation, and that will allow us to continue looking at this and follow the paths wherever those paths lead us. But that leaked tape from the chair was stunning. I mean, laughing about things. Oh, so you're talking about the winners and losers. Well, the winners are keeping their head down, he said to the investors. The winners are keeping their head down. I must admit, I haven't heard from any winners. I've heard from some losers. They're keeping their head down. He said, and Austin's really keeping their head down. In fact, they're keeping their head so low because they may get their underground train sooner than later, meaning that their profits must have been so big. There shouldn't be any winners and losers in this. We should do the right thing. Correct the price on that date. It will work itself out, and then the legislature will address
Hey, Governor,
this. Yeah.
that 3 major regulators had to resign from one single commission, all of them.
Yes.
What does that say about the appointment process and the Senate's advice and consent process? Is it thorough enough, or is this just, we name them, we'll pass them through?
You know, as I said last week, this entire system has worked smoothly for 20 years. We've had a few brownouts in the summer, but we have the lowest energy prices in the country. It's worked well. And like a lot of things in life, until something breaks down, you say, we need to look at that. And so that's what we're doing. And we are the advise and consent, and we have 3 openings now. The senators, on behalf of the senators, we expect the governor, and I'm sure he will send us 3 appointments before we leave here, because we need to ask them a lot of questions. We don't want them appointed when we're not here in the interim. We have bills now that in the House and the Senate that are looking at reconstituting that board, maybe taking the PUC to 5 or 7 members, where several of the members could be appointed by the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor. We're also looking at legislation on reforming ERCOT board in the same manner. So we have a lot of appointments to make. That's where we are.
Have you spoken to any House members that are sympathetic to your position on this?
Yes, I'll leave it at that. Yes.
Governor, what do you think the feasibility is of, let's say the governor were to say, okay, yeah, let's correct this, we need to fix this. There's only one chair left on the PUC. He's resigned, just staying in place.
Right.
What's the feasibility of this actually being able to be executed? How would they go about doing that?
The governor of Texas is a very powerful person. He can do anything he wants. And if he tells the PUC and ERCOT to correct the price back to the normal price that, the governor said earlier this is all going to be worked out in the courts, and I think he's right. I mean, there's already been a lawsuit filed by San Antonio. I think there'll be a lot of lawsuits filed. This will be worked out in the courts. But that may take years. Right now, before we get further down the road, we need to look at saving $4 to $5 billion for Texas ratepayers. Not a lot of money, a lot of money has changed hands, but a lot of these so-called winners, and I'm not saying that some of these winners did anything wrong. They were the recipient of something the legislature passed in 1999 and has continued through this time. So, the winners and losers, it's the people who made money and lost money is really the better way to say it. And unless some of these companies had too much control over ERCOT and helped decide this, which I don't know could have happened, they were just the recipients of doing what they were allowed to do. What we're really talking about is some of those who made so much money, we need to go back and correct that price. They probably won't go to losing money, they'll just make less. And some of those losers, maybe they didn't do a good job of hedging the various companies. But we can't let, this system was not designed for $40 billion or more of transfer of wealth in a week, putting companies bankrupt and people with high bills. Because at the end of the day, ratepayers are going to have to pay this, whether it's over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Somebody has to pay.
So let's do the flip side of that then. Let's say, no action is taken, these numbers are put under an investigation.
Yeah.
Where does that leave us? Where does that leave the legislature in terms of, can any action be done to reverse that?
So if the governor does not ask the PUC to correct the price between, I guess the deadline is sometime tomorrow night or Saturday, or if he doesn't at least ask for an investigation to keep it ongoing, then this issue is unfortunately ended for the ratepayers. Now, there may be, again, lawsuits in the courts that take years to resolve, but unfortunately the action of the Senate will be for naught. And, this wasn't like a 50-50 bill that passed out of the Senate. 28, again, the one who was sick would have voted yes. 28 out of 31 members who represent the entire state of Texas, from the inner cities to the rural areas, said, we need to correct this. We need to correct it. It's wrong. You just can't walk down the road and say, yeah, it was wrong. Maybe it was wrong. Maybe it was right. No, it's clear it was wrong and it should be corrected. And that's what we're asking to be done. Any other questions?
Have you spoken with Speaker Phelan since the came out, since he resigned? Has he changed his mind? And also, what's your response to him calling the Senate bill essentially government overreach?
There was no government overreach by the Senate bill. The government overreach was when the PUC arbitrarily, on Monday the 15th, the first daylight of the storm, sent the prices to $9,000 instead of letting the market go to that number, and keeping them beyond midnight on Wednesday night when they should have come back down to normal pricing. That's government interference in what we'd like to think is an unregulated market and a free market that's worked pretty well. The blame goes there in terms of that pricing. I did meet with the speaker at length today. We had a good discussion. I think the Senate just was able to get there faster than they were because we can move quickly. But my point to the speaker is if the governor doesn't change the price, or at least ask ERCOT to announce that this is under investigation, I think that's a minimum that the governor can do, then I'm glad that the House wants to investigate it. But if the governor doesn't take one of those two actions, and after tomorrow their intentions are great, but nothing will happen on this part. Look, and there's also a lot to unpack on this. We haven't even begun to look at all of the issues involved in this. So this is just the beginning, but this was the first thing we had to tackle. And again, the governor and I work well together. We still work well together. I'm supportive of the governor. This is not anti-governor. I'm actually coming to the governor and saying, Governor, help. We did what you said. Your own chair that you appointed, you asked to resign for what he said on a tape. That throws everything in doubt. Just the idea that the chair of the PUC says to the Bank of America, and I read you the quotes, I'm paraphrasing, I'm doing everything I can to help you. I just got to stall the legislature for another week. That alone should be enough for the governor to say, we just can't abide by that. We just can't abide by that. Hey, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Oh my God.